Evening and Om Shanti. And it's really lovely to have a dialogue here again in this room. This room holds many secrets in its walls. There have been many, many rich moments in this room, very moving moments, very powerful moments, enlightening moments even. So I'm sure that this dialogue is going to be in the same direction also. Who feels that the times that we live in are very strange? Okay. Who feels the times that we're living in are very exciting? It's true, isn't it? On the one side, you can see the darkest aspects of humanity emerging, and you wonder, where did the human of humanity disappear? And on the other side, you see acts of kindness, of generosity, of upliftment and care and compassion. So it's all of these things happening at the very same time. And we're very fortunate that we are living in these times. At least I feel so. When I was young, I used to think, there have been so many exciting periods in human history. I wish I lived in one of those. And by the time I was 14, I realized that I was in one of those. Prior to that, things were very calm and steady. I'm talking about the 50s, and then you reach the 60s, and from the 60s, I can date at 64, things began to explode. And for me, my little world changed when it happened far away, and in a way had nothing to do with me. But when it was the JFK assassination, and I thought, what's happening to the world? And then I went to India a few months later, and again I thought, what is going on? And after that, I've stopped asking what's going on. And I've been very fortunate that I was exposed to spirituality and began to understand what it is that is going on. And there's a very simple approach that the Brahma Kumaris have to whatever it is that's happening. And if I share a story with you, and you'll hear lots of stories about that Jayanti from many of us, I think. I had the fortune of living with her for 40 years. I knew her most of my life, but actually lived with her for 40 years. And there was one particular story she used to say, and you'll understand. She said a boat was meant for the water. You weren't supposed to have a boat on shore, on land. But if while the boat is in the water starts coming inside the boat, you have a problem. And so while the water is outside, you're fine, the boat is sailing and it'll carry you to your destination. But once it starts coming in, literally, it's dangerous. And what she was talking about was actually a metaphor for our life in the world. What's supposed to happen is that whatever is going on inside gets reflected outside. But what's happened since is that whatever is going on outside has penetrated inside. And so that's messed things up. And of course, yes, whatever is going on outside started from whatever is going on inside. But because we allowed all those things to come inside, then it really has created a huge amount of turmoil. I remember it was around the year 2000, long time ago, that at a UN conference in Geneva on the theme of social development, we had a person who was the Director General of WHO come to that. And around that time, HIV was the pandemic that everybody was concerned with. But he said, whatever is going on now with this pandemic is nothing to what we're going to face in the future. the pandemic that's coming up very, very strongly is mental ill health. And at that time, you couldn't see signs of it in that way. But of course, today, especially after COVID, nobody can question that. Whether it's young children, teenagers, or any part of life, people are afflicted with this. And so this jumble of first allowing negativity to come inside us and then expressing that negativity out there, and that negativity then coming back inside us is what's creating this imbalance within our awareness and consciousness. And so spirituality says, you try and sort things out there, and how far have you got? Instead of things getting better, yes, technology is increasing, medical science has made amazing strides. A country that was supposed to be a developing country has reached the moon. So many things can happen with technology in today's world. But yet, if we look at human values and what's going on as a result of loss of human values out there, then we see why things are the way they are. And to sort things out, we have to go inside. Trying to do things outside is like putting Band-Aid. You put a little bit here, a little bit there, but it doesn't last for very long. It has to be something that changes inside of us, and then things can change out there. Not that we stop doing what we can out there. We don't stop that at all. You do whatever it is you can do out there, but you also know that it's going to have a greater impact if I change things inside. Then even the little or the more that I can do out there is going to be more effective. And so what do I need to change inside myself? Now that is the call of the time. How am I going to respond to all these things that are going on out there and not get hopeless, not get fearful, not get anxious about it, but to be able to have an inner base of stability and strength through which I'm able to contribute in a positive way to whatever it is that's going on out there. And so what is the call of the time for me? It means to be able to connect with my own inner core values. And I remember when we started talking about vision and values at the end of the 80s, people said, nobody's going to bother with these things. They're going to poo-poo this. We were sure that we needed to look at these things, so we continued. And by the early 90s, we had a list of about 12 different values that people across the world said were important. Long story, many projects and international things that led to that. But within a few years, we saw that corporations were talking about vision and values. So sometimes, if you take a step inside, you know what it is that's going to be effective outside. And so, looking at my own inner core values, and just asking, well, what are those values? And then secondly, having been able to identify those values, then the next step, to be able to use the values I know that lie within and apply them in whatever it is we are working in the world out there. This is why when Mandaben was talking about all the different professional areas of people who've been here, this is the main aspect. When you start thinking about values, you discover that there are values at the heart of every profession. There are values that we begin with, and why things become a little bit messy is when people divert their attention away from those core values, but also not only to be able to focus on those inner core values and use them in our lives, but to have the power. I may say that I really want to be peaceful, and peace is the original nature of the human spirit. More about that another time. But I say, today I'm really going to be peaceful in everything I do. Next thing, the coffee spills. Who did that? Why did it happen? Shouldn't have happened. And so within moments we get challenged. As soon as you say you want to do something that's positive and beautiful, be aware there's going to be a challenge that comes. And usually it comes pretty quickly. Sometimes it may be a bigger challenge than just the coffee spilling. It might be a bigger one. It might come by the afternoon. Maybe not the next day, the same afternoon, you're going to be challenged. And so I need a lot of power, spiritual power, nothing to do with power out there over anyone else, but power within myself to be able to understand what I need to do, and the power within myself then to be able to apply it and do it in my life. And so Christine's smiling because she's looking at the subject of inner spiritual goals. So yes, inner spiritual goals are the foundation to be able to manage the SDGs, I think. And why we're taking so long and not managing the SDGs is because not many people are looking at the inner development goals. So, in essence, this is the call of the time. And if this group connects with the core values that they carry within themselves, and they take these values back out there into the world, the boat is not meant to be on dry land, the boat is meant to be in the water. And so you carry these out there into the whole wide ocean that's out there. And there's many storms that come to the ocean. There are many things that can happen. But you carry away your own commitment and the spiritual power to follow these ideas through in your life. And you'll see the difference it makes, not only to your lives, but also to the lives of all those who are connected with you. Your colleagues at work, your family, your friends, the ripples spread out further and further and further. And so I think this is really what the call of the time is for all of us generally, and then very specifically, where it is I know that there's something that's very important for me, and yet I'm not able to accomplish it. And maybe it's my fears, maybe it's the challenge of public opinion, maybe it's the limitations I feel within my own personality. Whatever that may be, I think that the time you spend here in silence with yourself, in dialogue with others, will actually make a shift, and you'll go away with the commitment that yes, I can make that change, I can make this happen. Daddy used to say that the call of the time is for those who serve others, and each one of you can touch not just 1,000 lives, but at least 100,000 lives. I believe that, because that's who you all are. You are leaders, and you have that possibility. And so to whatever extent I can develop these qualities, to that extent I can have an impact. I remember being at the State of the World Forum way back, 1999, and the question that was coming up there in San Francisco was the question, what are the qualifications needed for leaders for the 21st century? And when it was a change of the millennium, from 99 to the year 2000, there was a tremendous amount of optimism. It was a moment in which people felt that a new millennium meant huge change can happen, many things can be different. And two words came up within the discussion. One was a word that Peter Senge used. I didn't know him at all at that point. I just saw him as somebody speaking. And then later he co-facilitated dialogues here in this room for many, many years. And he said the qualification needed for a leader in the 21st century is humility. I was shocked. I wasn't expecting him to say that at all. But also then somebody mentioned the word spirituality. And so they are key words, but generally people find that they've remained words rather than something that leaders have taken seriously as the template for their lives or for their role as leaders. And so I do believe very sincerely that through this change of awareness to the awareness of the inner being and being in touch with my own inner identity, this is what can make a huge difference. And we can together create a better world. I believe that that is definitely possible. Sometimes I'm asked, what keeps you going on this journey? Because it's been 50 plus years I've been on this journey. And it's this vision that a better world is possible. And I'm sure that that's what is ahead of us. So I hope you carry away that conviction too. Thank you for being here. I know some had